Wrapping this all up, if we have these three things, if we know all the requirements and their details, we've got ongoing comparison of actual practice to the requirements, and then we report on any gaps and we correct them when it's needed. If we have these three things, then we can say, and this is the response to the CEO, I know and I can demonstrate that we are in compliance with all relevant standards and regulations. So there are a few things the CEO and the CIO both want to make sure happens. That we understand all the requirements, that the standards for each requirement are identified and understood. Someone is clearly responsible for each part. The cost of compliance is understood and managed. You know, for PCI, for a long time, the credit card companies wanted us to follow certain practices to encryption and maintaining the security of credit card information. And because there was no cost involved, a lot of people were not compliant with the regulations that the credit card companies wanted us to follow. So they changed the contract. They said, if you don't pass our audit, which means that you're not complying with our rules, the penalty will be just a few cents for every credit card transaction you process. All of a sudden, the cost became meaningful, and people started paying more attention to PCI standards. We'll see some of this with the European regulations, the GDPR. Their penalty is something like up to 5% of your annual sales. And my understanding is they're looking for some big company to make an example of. And so a lot of regulations don't have meaning unless there's a real cost or a significant penalty, which is another way of thinking about cost. And we need to understand the cost of compliance and the cost of not complying, which is really the risk of non-compliance. We need to make sure that all the gaps are identified. We want our compliance program to be ongoing. We want to have periodic reviews to make sure we know it's effective and that there are adequate tools that are available and that they're effectively used. So we've covered a whole lot of stuff to think about for compliance. Here's some sources of more information, and I thank you all for listening. We'll be available later for questions, and we should be able to make copies of the handouts if people are interested in this. Thanks very much, everybody.